Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Everything But the Kitchen Sink Hacks for Your Financial Future. Here at MFAN, we're trying so hard to not only connect you to those resources that will help you navigate the phases of military life, but really to help you thrive. At the heart of all we do here at MFAN is our research, and that's why we're here today. Our research is telling us that finances continue to be an area of concern for our military-connected families. That's why today, especially during Military Saves Month, we want to take a moment to cover everything you need to know about your finances. Today, we're going to cover understanding some of your rights. We're going to talk about how to save for your future. And what do you do if you find yourself in a pickle? Like I said, everything but the kitchen sink. We could not do that without our best-in-class collaborators, who are joining us here today. And so I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves and the wonderful organizations that they work for. Lila, Steve, and Erica, if you take a moment to tell us who you are and where you work, then we'll get started.
Well, since you mentioned my name first, I'll go first. I'm Lila Quintiliani. I'm the Program Director for Financial and Benefits Education and Counseling at Military Officers Association of America.
And I'm Steve Lepper. I'm the President and CEO of the Association of Military Banks of America.
And I'm Erica Chapman. I work with Coast Guard Mutual Assistance, and I am the Client Services Specialist.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves and spelling out your acronyms. We all love a good acronym in the military world. So now it's time to dig into the wealth of information you guys all have brought to share with us today. We thought it'd be great to get started with Lila from MOA and really talk about those rights that are available to service members. It's really important when setting yourself up for financial success that you understand those laws that were really designed to protect you in the first place. So Lila, I would love to hear from you a little bit more about the SCRA and its protections.
Sure. Let me first explain what MOA is, because a lot of people may not recognize us, but we are the Military Officers Association of America. We're an association of military officers. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan legislative advocacy organization that we're independent of the Department of Defense or any of the service branches. And we specifically advocate for pay and benefit issues for the entire military and veteran population and their families. So we're 350,000 members strong, and we're the fourth largest military service organization in the country.
That's incredible, Lila. I didn't even realize you guys were that large. So thanks for taking that time to explain it.
And we also have we're a nonprofit, but we also have two charitable subsidiaries. And I'd just like to mention it because the MOA Scholarship Fund has provided more than $160 million in educational assistance to over 16,000 students. And usually it comes in the form of interest-free loans, but there's also some grants, and it's a lot of people don't know to apply for this money. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then there's the MOA Foundation, which disperses grants to support veteran housing, food assistance, emergency support, and we also do career development and community outreach programs.
Sounds like you stay a little bit busy over there, Lila.
We do.
Awesome. Well, with that, thank you for that background. Let's go ahead and jump in. I apologize. I should have started there, but was so eager to learn more about the SCRA.
Yeah, sure. We can talk about the SCRA. The act has existed in one form or another since World War I. Its most, its current incarnation and the amendments of it were initially passed in 2003. And it really provides some powerful legal rights to active duty service members and their families that are not really available to any other group. And it applies to full-time active duty service personnel from all branches of the armed forces, and also those in the public health service and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, while they're on active service, and also reserve personnel on active duty and Guard or Air National Guard folks when they're mobilized for more than 30 days. And also in many cases, it also applies to dependents as well.
That's fantastic. I want to make sure that everyone heard that in terms of that it does also apply to activated Guard and reservists. Sometimes they can get left out of the conversation, and it's great to know that these rights also apply to them.
Yes, and it's important that, you know, they have to be mobilized under federal orders for more than 30 days. But some of the key thing that the Act is trying to provide is to ensure that service members can focus on accomplishing their mission. So some of the key provisions, and I have found a lot of times people may be aware of the SCRA, but are not aware of all of the provisions of it. And one of the most important provisions is it provides for reduced interest rates. Creditors are supposed to reduce the interest rate to 6% on debts that you incurred before entering active duty. And this can apply to credit cards, car loans, mortgages, and student loans. And it includes fees and service charges too. So lenders must reduce the rate for the entire time you're serving on active duty. And for mortgages, that continues on 1 year past your last day of active duty.
Those high interest rates can be what really holds a family back from really moving forward in their financial future. So that's a fantastic just tidbit for our families to walk away with, is that 6%. Lila, where's the best place someone can go to get help if they need to advocate under the SCRA for themselves to get this interest rate reduction?
Yeah, you can, most legal services offices on installations are very familiar with the provisions of the SCRA. Military One Source also has quite a bit of information on it. And a lot of times it's really just, sending even a form letter showing, your orders, calling you to active duty, et cetera, that can start the ball rolling. And another thing to mention is that although it's supposed to only apply, this interest rate reduction is supposed to only apply to debts that you incurred before you came on active duty, there are some creditors who will apply them even to, debts that you incur after you've been on active duty. So it's really worth a shot to try to invoke your SCRA rights and see if they will reduce your interest rates.
Aside from the interest rate reduction, what provision of the SCRA do you think is most underutilized by our service members and could really benefit those who are watching today?
Well, there are probably, I don't know that I could pick just one, but
we can drop the rest in the chat box. Pick your favorite.
Yeah. Well, I do think a lot of people know about getting out of a residential lease, that you can terminate a lease with written notice if you have permanent change of station orders, or you're going on, starting active duty. People may or may not realize that if you have a leased automobile and you're being called to active duty or deploying or going overseas, that you can actually get out of that lease, because that used to be a big issue. If you had, a leased vehicle and you were sent to on PCS orders overseas, then you would be, in a bind because you couldn't really take the leased vehicle with you, and yet you still owed all this money on the lease. So you are able to terminate an auto lease. The same thing goes with phone service if you need to terminate that. And also the voting rights, that's something that we don't really think about, but our voting rights are protected. Voting rights in your home state are protected by the SCRA as well.
So today is meant to give you all just a little bit of a taste of everything that we can offer you. And so I think, Lila, you've done a great job of hitting the high points of kind of those protections for our families that are watching. And I love that you brought up Military One Source and your local legal assistance office, because those are great resources that families can walk away from today. Before we kind of move on to kind of that second segment of our program today, is there anything else you wanted to add about MOA or the SCRA?
No, well, I think the only thing I would add is to make yourself familiar with it at the very least. And it's always worth a shot to ask. It would not hurt to ask your creditors or your landlord or whoever you're dealing with, whether they can, help you invoke your SCRA rights. Also, one thing I did neglect to mention is we've been hearing a lot about some landlords in some areas asking service members to waive their SCRA rights. And that should be a red flag. I would really carefully read any contract before signing it and make sure you're not waiving your SCRA rights. And I would probably take that to the legal assistance office and have them look it over before I signed any kind of thing waiving my rights.
We cannot stress that enough. I'm so glad you brought that up. This law was enacted to protect our service members, so please don't sign your rights away. That's a great piece of advice, Lila. So that's the kind of first part of our program, is really understanding your rights under the SCRA. But let's move forward a little bit here in the conversation and talk about another piece of the puzzle for your financial readiness, which is banking and setting yourself up for, financial success in your future. So we're lucky to have Steve with us today from AMBA. I'd love to hear from you, Steve, and I know our viewers would too, a little bit more about AMBA for those who aren't familiar with it, and the work that you guys are doing.
Absolutely. First of all, thanks for having us here today. And before I start, let me just echo what Lila said. As a former legal assistance officer myself, she's absolutely right. Seek advice and guidance from your legal assistance offices. They can be very, very helpful in the area of enforcing SCRA rights. But back on AMBA, the Association of Military Banks of America, or AMBA, it was established in 1959 by a group of military bankers who wanted an independent trade association that would help them better serve their military and veteran customers. And since then, that's been our focus. Over the years, we've developed different ways to educate military and veteran communities about the advantages of managing their finances with the help of military banks that understand their unique financial challenges. Most recently, our efforts have focused on encouraging underbanked and unbanked veterans who get their VA benefits, monetary benefits, to actually directly deposit those benefits into a bank or credit union account.
So for those watching at home, don't worry, these slides are going to be on our blog because this is a wealth of information. But, Steve, a lot of people don't understand why it is so important to have a bank account in the first place. Could you talk to us a little bit more about why that's so crucial?
Absolutely. The slide that you see here is actually from a VA presentation that talks about the benefits of putting your VA benefits or any benefits that you get from the government directly into a bank or credit union account. There are several ways of receiving benefits from the government, particularly from the VA. One is by paper check, one is by prepaid debit cards under a treasury program, and the other is to have them directly deposited into your account. Number one reason to have that money put directly into a bank or credit union account is because paper checks are 16 times more likely to be lost, stolen, or manipulated. And quite frankly, the second bullet there, 22 times more likely not to be delivered. And so if you want to get your money on time, every time, best way to do it is to have it electronically deposited. The other three reasons here are also important. A lot of people don't understand that they spend money when they cash checks. Many of our veterans who receive their benefits via checks cash them at check cashing places. And this study that was done by the Treasury basically concluded that the average unbanked person spends $40,000 in check cashing fees during their lifetime. That's a lot of money. And then the other two reasons are here for you to look at, but the main two reasons are to protect your money and to save money.
That check cashing figure is staggering. That just blows my mind away. Aside from being banked, with being banked, I understand that you all have now I'm going to get this wrong because there's a lot of acronyms, but Veterans Benefits Banking Program. Okay, I think I got that right. Can you tell us a little bit more about that program and kind of what AMBA is doing to really move this movement forward?
Absolutely. And if you go to the next slide, see a little bit about the program. We began this program at the VA's invitation in 2019. And what we've done is establish an online marketplace of banks and credit unions that have pledged to do several things for veterans who deposit their VA benefits in their financial institutions. First, they've agreed to provide veterans a free checking account with no minimum balances. Second, they've agreed to help any underbanked or unbanked veteran overcome whatever obstacles may have prevented them from opening an account at a U.S. financial institution. And just a sidebar, there are a lot of veterans, mainly homeless veterans, who've found it very difficult or impossible to open bank accounts. These banks and credit unions that have agreed to participate in the Veterans Benefits Banking Program have agreed to try to eliminate those obstacles. Our marketplace, listing all of those institutions that have made these commitments, is located at www.veteransbenefitsbanking.org. After 2 years in which we've been credited with banking over 150,000 veterans, in 2022, we decided to take VBBP to a new level by offering free financial or credit counseling and financial education. In what we're calling VBBP 2.0, which we launched back in February of this year, we've redesigned our website to make it easier for veterans to decide which bank or credit union is right for them. We've also offered a free financial counseling session through AFCPE or a credit counseling session through NFCC, both nonprofits that have become partners in this effort. Lastly, we've partnered with MFAN to re-engineer its MilSense program so that it's relevant to veterans. And the result of that re-engineering, VetSense, is a financial education program that helps veterans understand the multiple mileposts in their financial journey. And you can get that access to VetSense also on the VBBP website. We think these new additions to what was already a very successful program will help our most vulnerable veterans better understand how to manage their money and to achieve financial wellness. We're excited to partner with the VA in this effort, and you're likely to see many more VA financial wellness initiatives going forward as the agency develops a deeper understanding of the important connection between financial wellness and overall veteran physical and mental health.
Steve, it's just a wealth of information that you've just shared between the marketplace for the different banking institutions, the one-on-one financial counseling through AFCPE, of course, the shameless plug for MFAN's VetSense that we did in partnership with you all. But it's just such a wealth of information. So everyone, please pay attention to that chat box. Make sure you go to our blog because we're going to link you to all of these incredible resources. Today is just to introduce you to them, to wet your whistle, if you will. But there's just such a wealth of information and amazing partners like the VA and these banking institutions to support you in your financial journey. So Steve, I also love that you brought up that we're trying to understand that connection between financial wellness and overall health. We're all just trying to get by day to day, and it's been a rough couple of years.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I do want to give one plug too, as well, for those of you who are not currently veterans. Military One Source also has financial education programs for active duty military. So don't worry, we haven't forgotten about you, and we'll make sure to link you to those resources as well. So we promise you when we do these webinars that we're going to try to keep them short and sweet, but today is everything but the kitchen sink. So we've talked a little bit about your rights under the SCRA. We've talked a little bit about just one of the many programs out there to help you on your financial journey. But, no matter how prepared you are or how savvy you think you are financially, an emergency can happen to anyone. As we said at the beginning, research is at the heart of all that we do at MFAN. And in one of our last studies, we found that 23.5% of our military survey respondents had no viable plan on how to handle a financial emergency. So today, with the help of our panelist here, Erica, we're going to talk a little bit about what that is, what a financial emergency is, and what you can do. So Erica, I'd love to start with just kind of level setting with everybody watching today. What in the heck even is a financial emergency?
Well, the Coast Guard experienced a widespread financial emergency with the government shutdown. So I'm very happy to answer this question today. A financial emergency is actually defined as a loss of income or expense that you haven't planned for. Things like a job loss, major auto repair, damage to your home or personal property due to a natural disaster. And this often happens for Coast Guard members who are close to hurricane zones. Military families face these same challenges and other difficult ones that are unique to the military experience, like PCS season moves, needing to travel due to the illness or death of a family member, and all sorts of changes in the cost of living between duty stations, spouses even having to give up employment due to deployment or a PCS move. These are just some of the unique challenges that military families face.
I think in the last couple of years, more and more of us have started to understand what a financial emergency is, but the just unique lifestyle of a military family does, present multiple opportunities for a financial emergency or unexpected expense to really rock your world financially. And so, Erica, I'd love if you could take a minute to talk through what are those resources for a family when they find themselves in that situation where they have an unexpected expense, they have an unexpected loss of income. Where can they turn for help?
Absolutely. I've mentioned Coast Guard, but there are actually 4 military aid societies. We are Coast Guard Mutual Assistance, but there's actually one that serves each of the branches of the military. So CGMA has a cross-service agreement, and all of the agencies do. Air Force Aid Society, Army Emergency Relief, Navy Marine Corps Relief Society also partner with the American Red Cross. And so through this partnership, it's possible for a military member of each branch to receive assistance wherever they are and access emergency assistance 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And so that means the 2.5 million members of the military, their families, dependents can access financial support. So through these partnerships, CGMA, as well as our sister agencies, are ready to provide timely assistance for members of the military.
Erica, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think it's so important for people to know just the breadth and width of this collaboration amongst the aid societies to be there when you need it most. And also, I think for those watching, just to know there are people here who want to help, and these resources exist to help you. So please do access them when you need them most. And so, Erica, I'd love for you to walk through kind of a couple of the really specific situations where you all have been able to give help so that people understand the types of assistance that are available to them.
Absolutely. So the one that was mentioned before is that that cornerstone of each of the agencies is responding to disasters and emergencies with timely relief. It's at the core of the support that we provide Coast Guard members and their families. So following a major disaster, our initial objective is to provide emergency assistance for evacuation and provide the cash needed to meet basic living expenses such as food, shelter, and clothing, and then start those initial early actions that are going to start the rebuilding process. So that it runs the gamut of what was, and a great example of a disaster response that all of the agencies, aid societies responded to was the water crisis in Hawaii. And then, of course, Hurricane Ida was huge last year for our Coast Guard members, and we gave almost $2 million in assistance just for those folks that were responding to that hurricane. And unfortunately, that was on the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. So that was just a real blow to that area.
So I think a lot of our viewers have probably heard of aid societies and the American Red Cross responding when there's a crisis like a hurricane. But Erica, you guys do a lot more than just crisis response. And so talk to us a little bit about what the aid societies do in terms of extra expenses that maybe come along with PCSing or maybe having a special needs child in your home.
Absolutely. CGMA offers member support with their PCS transitions, with housing costs, with special needs adoptions, as well as pet and other household expenses, as well as education support. So we have a broad spectrum of assistance. We want folks to be financially resilient, and we know that what comes up in terms of just the milestones of life, we want to be supportive there. So everything from adoption to a first and last month's rent when you're moving to a new area. And in some of those high cost living areas, that first and last month's rent and security deposit is multiple thousands of dollars. And sometimes our junior folks they don't have that saved coming out of boot camp.
I think any of us who've gotten PCS orders unexpectedly know that no matter how well you plan and try to save for a move, that first month, last month security deposit, the cost to move your pets, if you have to move your pets, there's just a wealth of unexpected expenses. So with that, I'd love to ask Erica, are there any other resources you'd like to share with our families who are watching today?
Well, there's two that have been unique that CGMA is kind of pioneering. We have our ARS, which is Assisted Reproductive Services. We know that families that are trying to grow sometimes face fertility issues or other challenges with growing their family. And so we have assistance for that, as well as the breast milk shipment or transport. So was part of the women's retention study for the Coast Guard, and that was a hurdle for folks. And so we actually support both active duty members as well as spouses who have to go TDY for work or during the PCS season need to transport breast milk, and we are helping with that process. So just really those touchstones where families feel the crunch of financial pressure, and we want to support them to help them be as successful as possible.
I love that. Feel the crunch. I mean, the things that you just mentioned are so unique to the military lifestyle. And again, we cannot stress enough that there are organizations out there that want to help, that are set up to help, that are designed to help. And so again, watch that chat box. We're going to be dropping more links in there for you, and go back to our blog on our website because these resources are here to help you guys get over these financial hurdles. So Erica, thank you for sharing not only about what CGMA is doing, but what your sister aid societies are doing for military families as well. So again, part of our promise to our viewers is that we try to keep these as short as possible, but also make sure that we give you information to help you thrive. We just scratched the surface today on what is out there in terms of resources for financial success. I want to make sure that everyone goes back to our website, mfan.org. In addition to OneSource, which we've already shared, we also have an online resource directory called MillMap, where we are constantly uploading new resources. We have blog posts to help your family, including one that just went up on financial readiness for the whole family, including your kids. So we really hope that everyone watching today has learned something new. You feel a little bit more knowledgeable on your rights. Maybe you understand a little bit more about your future, and you know where to turn if you want some guidance on short-term and long-term financial success. But most importantly, we design these webinars for you. We want to make sure the information that we're putting out there is helpful. So if you could take a few moments to fill out our survey at milfanet.org/kitchensink, you'll be entered to win a gift card of $100. We really want to hear from you so that we can design content that matters. Before we leave, I just have to give a huge thank you to our panelists. I know the three of you are incredibly busy, but the fact that you took the time to share this wealth of knowledge speaks volumes not only to you, but also the organizations that you work for. Thank you. And for our viewers at home, we hope to see you at another webinar soon. Until next time, thank you.